Hi, so now we will be discussing this topic of how to convert a galvanometer into an ammeter, and then after that we will discuss how to convert a galvanometer into a voltmeter. So you may ask, what is the need to do this? Why not have three separate devices, right? Galvanometer, ammeter and voltmeter as three separate things. Why do we want to convert the galvanometer into something else? Right, so the reason is general modification. Just we want to keep one device, a galvanometer, and on the basis of what is needed, whatever is required, we should be able to easily convert it into an ammeter or a voltmeter, right? So that we don't have to manufacture three separate devices, right? And if you have seen the ammeter and the voltmeter in your practicals, they basically look the same except for the scale, right? So first, how do we convert the galvanometer to an ammeter? What are the modifications which are required? First modification is that the ammeter should have a higher current capacity. So why is this so? Because generally speaking, a galvanometer, when we solve the MCQs, we will notice that usually a galvanometer has a current handling capacity of about a few milliamperes, like maybe 15, 20, 50 or maybe 100 milliamperes. Generally the range is around somewhere around 20 milliamperes is the most common number you will notice. So galvanometer, the maximum, the safe value of current that you can pass through it is, if it is in milliamperes, and suppose we want to use our ammeter to measure a current in amperes, then we have to increase its current capacity. That is the first modification which is needed in the galvanometer. Second modification is that, this is very important now, lower effective resistance. The galvanometer should not add to the resistance of the circuit. Why? For example, we have a simple arrangement. There is an external resistor R, and there is a cell V connected to it, and current I is flowing, and to measure this current I have connected a galvanometer. So let's call our galvanometer as, say, for example, G here. So what will be the current I in the circuit? It will be V by R as per Ohm's law, where R is the total resistance here. So if R is the external resistance, and if I assume this galvanometer to have zero resistance, ideally speaking galvanometer should have zero resistance, then fine, adding the galvanometer will not make any change. But if the galvanometer itself has some finite resistance, then this external resistance and the galvanometer both will be in series, and our effective resistance will become, instead of R, we will have R plus G. The effective resistance will increase. So since the effective total resistance increases, what will happen to the current I which I want to measure? The current I will decrease, will reduce. So by adding the device, I am changing the quantity which I wanted to measure in the first place. I wanted to measure a current I, but because I started using this device which is a galvanometer, the current measured is being reduced. So something like, if you compare it with the example of potentiometer that we were talking about, in a potentiometer also, right, we compare the EMF to be measured with a bag of mangoes. So it is, if we compare with that example, here what is happening is, if I want to count or if I want to measure the mass of my bag of mangoes, then I have to pay a price of, say, 1 mango just to measure the mass. Similar kind of thing is happening here, right? I want to measure what is the current, but the device which is used to measure the current is a galvanometer. If I put a galvanometer, then I have to pay a price. What is the price? My current reduces. I have a bag of mangoes, I want to measure the mass of the bag of mangoes, but if I go to a person who has a weighing scale, then he will ask me, well, if you want to measure the mass, then you have to give me 1 mango. So what you will get at the end of the day will be lesser than what is the original quantity supposed to be, right? So we don't want that to happen. This, some modification we have to do so that this problem is taken care of. The third thing is we have to protect the galvanometer. Why? It is linked to the first point that galvanometer itself doesn't have much capacity to handle current. It's just a few milliamperes, 50 or 100 milliamperes. Then what if a larger current passes through the galvanometer? Then it should be able to tolerate it, otherwise the galvanometer will break down. Later on in the chapter magnetic effect of electric current, we will study the construction of a galvanometer. We will see what are the components inside the galvanometer. We will notice that there is one spring. So especially this spring will break if a very large current is passed through the galvanometer. So these are the three modifications which have to be done. So what should I do? So what must be done to convert my galvanometer into an ammeter? So what is needed is, there is a very simple way to achieve this. Just connect a shunt. Shunt is another word for, it's a synonym for parallel. Just connect a resistor S, let's call, because it is shunt, let's call it as S, in parallel to the galvanometer. So if I connect a S in parallel to G is my resistance of the galvanometer and S is the shunt connected across it, then what happens? Can I get how are all these three problems solved simultaneously, right? First, higher current capacity. Will I have higher current capacity? So if I want a very large value of I to flow, then what will happen is, say I want to measure a current of 10 amperes, but my galvanometer has a capacity to handle only 50 milliamperes. Right. So what will happen to the remaining current, which is almost, now compared to 10 amperes, 50 milliamperes is negligible. So almost the entire current must be able to flow through this shunt. So if I connected in parallel connection, if we use the logic of current divider, parallel connection helps us to divide the current. So most of the current will flow through the shunt, right? So majority of the current, we will say it is bypassed, and that will help us achieve the modification number 1 and 3 both together. How? Because we can now measure a higher current I, and at the same time we have protected our galvanometer from damage. But you may say, but then the galvanometer will still measure only 50 milliamperes, because out of the 10 amperes, 50 milliamperes is flowing through the galvanometer, and only the remaining is basically bypassed through the shunt. So how is this really achieved? So one more change which has to be done, besides the fact that we have to add the shunt, one more change required is that if originally I had my galvanometer where the pointer would show a maximum deflection of say 50 milliamperes, right? If this was a galvanometer which was showing the scale was showing on maximum deflection a current of 50 milliamperes. So the change which has to be made here is that I have to erase the scale. I have to recalibrate the scale, right? And instead of 50 milliampere, I just have to write here 10 amperes. So by writing 10 amperes, so it's kind of like a little bit of cheating which we have done here. Okay, if your galvanometer is actually showing 10 amperes, that does not mean that really the galvanometer in reality is having 10 amperes of current. No, the galvanometer is still having about 50 milliamperes of current, and the remaining 10 minus 50 milli is flowing through the shunt. But the shunt is now a part of your galvanometer, so you still say that the total current I which the galvanometer has measured is 10 amperes. It is measuring 10 amperes, but in reality it is not having 10 amperes, not milliamperes. It is measuring 10 amperes, but in reality it is not having 10 amperes. It is having only about 50 milliamperes, its maximum current. So in this way we have protected the galvanometer also, and we have increased its current carrying capacity. Now what about this fact, lowering the effective resistance? How does the shunt help us in that? First point, whenever we connect any resistor in parallel, then we know this statement that the effective resistance is lesser than the least, right, which grammatically is a wrong statement, but still from the point of view of physics, what it means is, if you have S and G in parallel, the RP, the parallel effective resistance, will be lesser than S, and it will be lesser than G as well. So we have reduced but you may say, suppose if G is say 50 ohms, let's take an example. If G is 50 ohms and if S is also, let's say 10 ohms, if the shunt value is, suppose if I take it as 10 ohms, then 50 parallel 10, the combination would be lesser than 10, right? So how much would it turn out to be? It will be 50, the effective parallel resistance would be 50 into 10, product upon sum we will use, upon 50 plus 10, which is 60. So it will be roughly around 8 amperes, 8 point something we can say. So sorry, 8 ohms, not amperes, 8 ohms. So you may say my effective resistance is now about 8 ohms. But what if my external resistance itself is say around the same magnitude, say 10 ohms. So if my effective parallel combination of the shunt and the galvanometer is 8 ohms, then 10 ohms and 8 ohms are comparable. It will cause a drastic change in the value of the current I. The original current I would be V upon R or V upon 10 ohms, and now it will become V upon R plus G, it will become V upon 18. So V upon 18 and V upon 10 are two totally different numbers. So what it means is, if I want to achieve this lower effective resistance, what I need to do is, obviously I should connect something in parallel, not in series, but at the same time the value of that shunt resistance S, in most of the MCQs again we will notice that the value of S is of the order of 10 raised to minus 2 ohms. That means 0.01 ohms or sometimes 0.001 ohms. It is a negligibly small resistance value, and that makes the effective resistance. So if I have 0.1 parallel with 50 ohms, the effective resistance will be even lesser than 0.01 ohms. Right? So that is the advantage of connecting the shunt in parallel with the galvanometer. All three are simultaneously achieved. Okay. So now obviously the question arises is that how do I exactly calculate what is the precise value of the shunt resistor which is required based on the parameters of the galvanometer. Means I should know what is the resistance of the galvanometer, and if I know what is the current I want to measure versus what is the current that the galvanometer can tolerate, how do I calculate my shunt value? Okay, so let's redraw the diagram. So I have a galvanometer of resistance G, and what I have done is, in parallel to it I have connected another resistor which I call it as the shunt resistor S. Now the galvanometer can tolerate a current, a maximum current of, let's say, Ig, which I told you is around 50 milliamperes. But I want to measure a current I which is several times more than this Ig. So we will just use the simple logic of current getting divided. So what is happening here is that if the total current I incoming at this junction, if I name this junction as something, then I can say the incoming current is I and the outgoing on towards the galvanometer is Ig, then obviously this remaining current which is outgoing from this junction, it should be I minus Ig. So Ig is flowing through G and I minus Ig is flowing through S. So in parallel the voltage remains the same. So I can say that V across the galvanometer and V across the shunt, they both are equal because they both are in parallel. Voltage remains the same in parallel, And then using Ohm's law, I can say voltage is nothing but current into resistance. So I can say G into Ig, V is equal to IR, Ig into G, and Vs here the voltage is going to be current, which is I minus Ig into the shunt S, right, current into resistance. So since I want the value of S, I can say S is equal to Gig upon I minus Ig, and what I can do is I can take this value of Ig in the numerator into the denominator and then split the two terms. So if I split the two terms, I am going to get G upon I by Ig minus Ig upon Ig will become 1, and this term I upon Ig is what we call as N. So what is this N here? What is N? N is the number of times the value of the maximum current Ig that I want to measure, right? So for example, if my Ig is again 50 milliamperes, okay, and I want to measure a current of say 10 amperes. So 10 amperes is how many times more than 50 or 50 milliamperes? So it is 200 times more, right? 200 into 50 milli is going to give me 10 amperes. That means my value of N here is 200. That means I want to measure a current 200 times more what the galvanometer can tolerate. So that is called as N. It is basically a ratio of I and Ig. So with this we get a formula for the shunt S that must be connected in parallel to the galvanometer to convert the galvanometer into a ammeter. Okay, so now we want to convert our galvanometer into a voltmeter. Voltmeter always must be connected in parallel. So I have an external resistance R, a cell V is connected to it, and I want to measure the voltage across this R. So I put a galvanometer in parallel to measure the voltage. So now what are the modifications required so that this galvanometer does the right job? First thing, its capacity, just like in an ammeter, its capacity must be increased. What is the reason? Same reason, galvanometer resistance value is say something around 50 ohms if I consider, and its current is about 50 milliamperes. So then what becomes the maximum voltage, right? So I can say V is equal to IR. So 50 milliamperes into 50 ohms will give me a voltage of about say 2.5 volts, right? 50 into 50 milli, so it's about 2.5 volts. That means the maximum capacity for the galvanometer is about 2.5 volts. So but what if the actual voltage on the resistor, external resistor, is say something around 10 volts, right? So say if I connect a 10 volt cell to this resistor, then I will get a voltage of 10 volts, neglecting any internal resistance for the cell. But my galvanometer has a capacity of only 2.5 volts, so then it won't be possible, right? So that's why I have to increase my voltage capacity, right, for the galvanometer. It has to be higher. It should not break down beyond a voltage of 2.5 volts. Okay. Second point, higher effective resistance. Why is this needed? So very similar to what happened in the case of the ammeter. If I put an ammeter in the circuit, it lowers the current. Same thing happens here. If I put a voltmeter or a galvanometer in parallel, what will happen is this cell here is giving some current I. This I will again split into 2. Let the current through the galvanometer be Ig, and then the other current through the remaining current through the resistor is I minus Ig. So what is happening to the voltage across my resistor, which is what the goal of the experiment is. I want to measure that voltage. So earlier what was the voltage? If there was no galvanometer, if there is no galvanometer at all, the entire current is going through the load, the resistor. So the voltage would be I into R, but now it is I minus Ig into R. So the current through the resistor has reduced, or in other words, the voltage across the resistor will also go down. So the moment I try to measure the voltage, it reduces, right? Using the same example of the bag of mangoes, right? If I have a bag of mangoes, but if at the moment I try to measure its mass, I have to give away one mango. There is a loss just because of the process of measurement, okay? So that should not happen. So if that should not happen, then, or if I want to at least minimize it, then what should be done is this Ig should be, right, it should be very small, so that I minus Ig is approximately equal to I. So how do I reduce this current? Very simple. All we have to do is increase the effective resistance, higher effective resistance. The resistance value should be high. So if I make this resistance of the galvanometer very large, then the current, when it arrives at this junction, very little current will go through the galvanometer and most of the current will be bypassed through the resistor, right? So that is our second point. Third, protection from damage. Again, it is linked to the first point. If there is a higher voltage and if it is given to the galvanometer and that voltage is beyond its capacity, then the spring in the galvanometer can get same thing happened in the ammeter as well. The spring can suffer some damage and the device will be broken. So in order to protect it from damage, some modification is necessary. So these three things have to be done. So simultaneously in one shot, how do we achieve it, right? The answer is hidden here. How do I increase, if I want a higher effective resistance? If you want to lower the resistance, obviously you will choose parallel connection, and here in this case, if I want to increase the resistance, the best method is, let us put a resistor in series. And because we have put in series, so don't use the letter S again because S is for shunt. So let's call it as RS, resistance in series. Okay. So if I put the resistor in series, are all the three problems solved? Let's check. Higher voltage capacity, yes, because the current Ig will reduce. If Ig reduces, then I'm talking about point number 2. Higher effective resistance will lower my loss. If Ig reduces, my current I minus Ig is approximately equal to I. So the voltage value will be almost the same as in the case without a galvanometer. Then because the Ig has been reduced, protection has been achieved. And how has the voltage capacity been increased? So there is some voltage V, suppose say it is 10 volts. So the 10 volts is across the resistor R, and because it is a parallel combination, the same 10 volts is across the combination of G and RS. So how has this been achieved? Very simple, the voltage has been divided. Some voltage is appearing across G and the remaining voltage will appear across RS. So if I say have a voltage of cell of 10 volts, then I can design it in a way that 2.5 volts appears across the galvanometer and remaining 7.5 volts is appearing across the external, the resistor RS, which is connected. So same thing, same problem as in the ammeter. You may say that if the existing galvanometer or voltmeter, if it was showing 2.5 volts as the maximum deflection of the pointer was showing 2.5 volts, then how do I measure 10 volts then? Because I have applied 10 volts. Out of 10 volts, 2.5 has come on the galvanometer and remaining 7.5 has gone on the resistor. So what change is needed? Same thing has to be done here. The same setting is required. What is it? Change the scale. Change the scale of the device. Don't keep the same scale. Change the calibration, right, so that it reads 10 volts, although it is actually having only 2.5 volts. Okay, so all three modifications have been achieved using a resistor in series. So the same thing we want to do now. We want to get a formula what should be the value of this RS, how to design it, right, how to design so that the galvanometer is effectively converted into a voltmeter. So what we are going to do is, there is a galvanometer G to which I have connected a series resistor RS, and let the current which is flowing through them, let it be some Ig, and this is now my voltmeter, which is going to be connected in what? In parallel to some voltage V. This voltage V is across a resistor. Some current flowing through the resistor will give me a voltage V. So this V is what I want to measure on this galvanometer. So as I said, what is going to happen to this V? This voltage is going to get split into the two resistors. The first resistor is the galvanometer itself, the resistance of the galvanometer G, and the second resistor here is RS. So what I can say is, the voltage gets divided, but what remains the same is the current, right? Current through the galvanometer is Ig, and current through the the series resistor RS is also the same, right? Both the currents are the same. Ig is equal to Ig. This Ig is for the galvanometer, this Ig is for RS. So if this voltage V has been split into two, let's say across the galvanometer I have Vg, okay, and across my external RS I have Vr. So what can I mention about if the current is the same, right, the same current is flowing, what can I say about the voltage V? The voltage V has split into two. One is Vg and the other one is Vr. So if V is equal to Vg plus Vr, what can I say about Vg? Yeah, so Vg is going to be, again I will use Ohm's law, it is going to be Ig into G, and Vr is going to be the same current Ig into Rs. So it is this Rs that I want to find out. So keep it on one side, say let's bring it in the LHS, Ig into Rs, and let's take this term on the other side. So I'll get V minus Ig into G, and if I take this Ig in the denominator, I'm going to get Rs is equal to V minus Ig into G, the whole divided by Ig, and then I can split the two terms. I'll get V upon Ig minus Ig upon Ig will get cancelled off, and I'll be left with G. Now what I can do is, just like I had written the letter N in the case of an ammeter, right? Similarly here in the case of a voltmeter also, what will this N be equal to? It will be in the ammeter, it was ratio of the current I upon the current through the galvanometer Ig. So same thing here, it is a very similar ratio. Instead of I we have V. So it is the voltage that we want to measure, V, divided by the Vg, the maximum voltage that the galvanometer can tolerate. So it is V upon Vg. So for example, if I want to measure a voltage of 10 volts, so that's my V is 10, but the galvanometer can tolerate only 2.5 volts. So then the ratio N becomes 10 upon 2.5, which will become, right, 4 times. That means I want to measure a voltage which is 4 times more or n times more than my maximum voltage tolerable by the galvanometer. So if that is the case, I can replace this V with N times Vg. V is equal to N times Vg in the numerator here, divided by Ig minus G. And what is this term here? Vg upon Ig, voltage upon current, voltage through the galvanometer divided by current through the galvanometer. Vg upon Ig is nothing but G. So if I take G common, I am going to get N minus 1. So this is the formula. The series resistor Rs which should be connected is going to be G into N minus 1. But mind you, the N for the ammeter and the N for the voltmeter are different. This is the N for the ammeter, the other one is the N for the voltmeter. And if at all there is any confusion, then you can keep the formula like this, or even if you just put a small suffix A and V, that will be more clear. N for ammeter is Na, and for voltmeter it is Nv, right? So even this notation is fine, or even if you just keep it like this, that's okay, right? So for shunt it is G upon N minus 1, for resistor in series it is G into N minus 1. Okay, now something from the point of the MCQs. In the MCQs they will give you that they can give you several cases. They can say there is a galvanometer and they will ask you to convert this galvanometer into a ammeter, or they may say convert this galvanometer into a voltmeter, and that's fine, that's the standard case. But the other varieties are also possible. Is what they will ask you to do is they will tell you there is an ammeter and convert this ammeter into a voltmeter, right? Or they can tell you there is a voltmeter and make it into a ammeter, or they can say there is an ammeter and make it into a better ammeter, or a voltmeter and make it into a better voltmeter. So all these types of conversions are possible. Galvanometer to ammeter, galvanometer to voltmeter, ammeter to voltmeter or voltmeter to ammeter, ammeter to a better ammeter, voltmeter to a better voltmeter. So in all of these combinations of conversions, what are the formulae that have to be used? Because we are aware of only two formulae, how to convert a galvanometer to ammeter and how to convert a galvanometer into a voltmeter. So everything can be very easily simplified by just remembering this one thing. Treat your first device, whichever is the first device, treat it as a galvanometer. Your first device is the galvanometer. So if they say convert an ammeter into a voltmeter, and they say there is an ammeter whose resistance is 5 ohms, and this ammeter is able to measure a current of 1 ampere, convert it into a voltmeter to measure 50 volts. So I am just making an example. So they are saying there is an ammeter, convert it into a voltmeter. You forget it, you just say, you treat that ammeter as a galvanometer. There is a galvanometer which has to be converted into a voltmeter. So if they tell me that there is an ammeter of resistance 5 ohms, I will say G is equal to 5 ohms. If they say that this ammeter can measure a current of 1 ampere, that means I will say that 1 ampere is not the current of the ammeter, I will say Ig, the current of the galvanometer is 1 ampere, and then convert it into a voltmeter to measure 50 volts, so V is equal to 50 volts, and then just use your formula and get the answer, right? So treat your first device as a galvanometer. Or suppose if this, I'll give you another example, they will say there is a voltmeter. There is a voltmeter which can measure 2 volts, and I want to convert this voltmeter now to measure 100 volts. It is already able to measure 2 volts and I want to convert it to 100 volts. So very simple, treat your first voltmeter as a galvanometer. Use the letters G, Ig and Vg for the resistance and current and voltage for the galvanometer. Although the first device mentioned is not a galvanometer, it's a voltmeter, you treat it as a galvanometer. So this is the key here. No matter what conversion they ask, treat your first device as a galvanometer and it should solve all problems. Okay, now something about sensitivity. Okay, so this term we have to understand, sensitivity. What does it mean by sensitivity? So what is the English meaning of this word sensitive? To be sensitive. If a person is emotionally very sensitive, so what does that mean? Or physically very sensitive, it can be whatever. So what it means is there is a big reaction to a very small a small change or a small input, right, to something, right? So that is the meaning of being sensitive, right? Something small happens and they react very suddenly, or they react very what do you say, unproportionately to the event, right? That's called as being sensitive. So sensitive or sensitivity basically would be measured for a device, right? How would we measure it? Basically, you give an input to the device and see how the device reacts to it. So if I consider a galvanometer, if there is a galvanometer, what is the input which is given to the galvanometer? The input is current. I am giving current through the to the galvanometer. And what is its reaction, right? What is the reaction of the galvanometer? Its reaction is that its pointer moves, its pointer deflects. So for a galvanometer, input is current and output is deflection, right? Input is current and output is deflection for a galvanometer. So if I want to measure sensitivity, right, if I call, since the input is a current, let's call the sensitivity as current sensitivity, SI. So as I said, sensitivity would be, right, we are measuring the response, the output versus the input. So current, the current here is nothing but Ig, and the deflection, if I call it as theta, right, then or I can just say I instead of Ig. The sensitivity would be defined as the change in the output upon the change in the input. If I give a very small change, say for example 1 milliampere, if I change D, the letter D here refers to change. If I change the current by 1 milliampere and if the deflection is huge, if the pointer deflects by say 50 degrees, 1 milliampere change and a 50-degree rotation of the pointer, then I will say the device is very, very sensitive. But if by changing the current through 1 milliampere, if my pointer deflects by only 1 degree instead of 50 degree, it hardly moves, it just moves ahead slightly by 1 degree, then I will say the device is less sensitive. But then you may ask, why are we talking about it? Why are we defining this sensitivity and discussing it and solving numericals related to it? So the reason is because whenever any instrument is made, any device is made, it can be anything, it can be a galvanometer, ammeter, voltmeter, a thermometer, any kind of device, say a speedometer in the car, or a bike, or there is an altitude meter in the cockpit of an aeroplane. These are instruments which show us readings. So all these devices, whenever they are designed, their sensitivity has to be calibrated. Some devices we want them to be sensitive, some devices we don't want them to be sensitive. For example, if I am measuring the temperature using a thermometer, and suppose I want to measure body temperature, human body temperature, why? To measure fever. So do we want a very sensitive device? Yes, answer is yes. Why? Because my device should be so sensitive, my thermometer should be so sensitive that even a 0.1 degree Fahrenheit change it should be able to measure. 0.1 degree Fahrenheit, right? If you have a fever, whether it is 99.1 or whether it is 99.2, even a 0.1 degree Fahrenheit change in temperature, the thermometer is able to measure. So it's a very sensitive thermometer. But suppose I want to have a thermometer which is measuring the temperature in an oven, inside an oven, right? So then I don't want to measure the temperature for every 0.1 degree Celsius or Fahrenheit. It should give me roughly whether it is a few 1 or 2 degrees or 5 degrees here and there is okay in that case. So in that case I don't want a very sensitive thermometer, I would rather need a more accurate thermometer, right? Or for example, if you consider the cockpit of an aircraft, so if there is a device which measures the altitude, right, do we want it to be very sensitive? Not exactly, because if the plane keeps on going up and down by a few feet, and if the pointer, if there is a pointer which moves either left, right, or it goes say up and down, so if that pointer moves drastically, and if the pilot sees that the pointer is just drastically moving, it can scare the pilot. So few feet here and there, 100 or 50 feet, 100 feet up or down, should not cause a big movement in the pointer. It should cause a small movement in the pointer of that device, right? So we want it to be less sensitive. But there may be another device, let's say for example, if there is a device in the cockpit which measures the amount of oxygen in the air in the plane, so then that device should be quite sensitive. It should not be insensitive. It should be sensitive and accurate. It should very quickly tell the if the level of oxygen drops down by say 5% or 10% or whatever, then it should create a big deflection or a big change in the output, so that the pilot comes to know that there is something going wrong, right? So like that. So for any kind of instrument we can talk about this term. So here it is simple, d theta by di, and similarly if I talk about a voltmeter, it should be d theta by dV. The input is a voltage and the output again is a deflection, so it should be d theta by dV. So now there are two formulae here which I have written, you can see in the list of formulae. Current sensitivity SI, it is NAB divided by C, and the voltage sensitivity SV is very similar, NAB divided by C, but we also have the resistance of the galvanometer G next to it. So we are not going into the derivation for these two, but basically these terms here N, A, B and C, they are related to the construction of the galvanometer, which is covered more in magnetic effect of electric current. N stands for the number of turns of coil inside the galvanometer. A is the area of the coil. B is the magnetic induction or the magnetic field for the permanent magnets which are used inside the galvanometer, and G is the resistance of the galvanometer. And this letter C, this C is a constant, it is called as torsional constant, because there is a fiber which gets twisted when the pointer moves. There is a fiber which gets twisted inside the galvanometer. So C is the twist constant or torsional constant, we call it as. Okay. So more about these terms it's cleared in the chapter magnetic effect, so I am not going into the details. One small formula which will help us solve a lot of MCQs is what is this G? G is the resistance of a galvanometer, and obviously we know what the formula is, it is Vg by Ig. But sometimes what they do is, instead of measuring or giving us the values of voltage and current, they will give us the sensitivity measurements. So if these two are given, then it is SI upon SV. So generally speaking, resistance is voltage upon current, but in the case of a galvanometer, if sensitivity is given, then don't take ratio of voltage upon current sensitivity. Take it as reverse, current upon voltage sensitivity, SI by SV and not SV by S. No, it's not V, it's V by I, but when it comes to S, it's not V by I, it's I by V. Okay, and you can understand that very easily. If you just divide these two, the d theta will get cancelled off and the dv will go in the numerator. So I'll get dv by di, which is nothing but v by I, right? So this is another formula which can help us. And one more hint I have mentioned in the list of formulae. There is a hint. What is that hint? We will see MCQs where they will tell you that, you know, there is some maximum deflection. There is some deflection in the galvanometer. If I pass a current of say 50 milliamperes, there is a deflection of 50 divisions. Deflection is measured either, this theta is measured either in degrees or sometimes it is measured in divisions, degrees or divisions. So some deflection is given for some current, and then if I put a shunt in parallel, or if I put a series resistor in series to convert it to a voltmeter, then the deflection becomes so much, some new value of deflection is given, right? So in all such cases, what we will have to do is we will have to assume a theta maximum, right? So this is especially for MCQs where a hybrid of sensitivity and conversion is there. They are talking about sensitivity also, and they are talking about conversion from galvanometer to ammeter or voltmeter. If both are mentioned, then assume a theta max, and later on you can eliminate it if it is not required in the final answer. So it's just a hint. When we solve some MCQs, we can see what does this hint mean in detail.